My son's coach yelled at him for being out of shape, and the next day he collapsed from undiagnosed diabetes. Coach YELLS was one of those guys who thought screaming made kids tougher. Every practice, he'd pick someone to tear apart. Last Tuesday, it was my 12-year-old son Ethan's turn. "Look at you, Henderson. Can't even run a lap without wheezing. You're soft. Out of shape. Drop and give me 20. Ethan tried explaining he'd been feeling weird all week, super thirsty, going to the bathroom constantly. "Excuses!" the coach shouted. "You're just lazy." I picked Ethan up after practice, and he looked destroyed, not just tired, defeated. He climbed into the car without a word, which wasn't like him. Usually he'd ramble about everything that happened. When I asked how it went, he just shrugged and stared out the window. That night at dinner, he barely touched his food, said he wasn't hungry, which was strange because this kid could eat an entire pizza by himself. He went to bed early, complaining about feeling sick to his stomach. I figured it was just embarrassment from getting yelled at. The next morning, Ethan woke up throwing up. He was pale, breathing funny, and kept asking for water. I thought it was the flu going around school. "Mom, I feel really weird," he kept saying. Like, really weird. I was about to let him stay home when his legs gave out in the hallway. He just collapsed. No warning, no stumbling. One second he was walking, the next he was on the floor, barely conscious. I called 911, screaming at the operator while trying to wake him up. His breathing was so shallow and fast, like a scared rabbit. In the ambulance, the paramedic kept checking his blood sugar with this little machine. The numbers meant nothing to me then. At the hospital, they rushed him straight back. A doctor came out 20 minutes later looking serious. "Mrs. Henderson, your son has type 1 diabetes. His blood sugar is over 600. Normal is around 100. He's in diabetic ketoacidosis. Basically, his body's been poisoning itself because he can't process sugar." I felt like someone punched me in the stomach. "But he's athletic. He plays soccer. How is that possible?" "Type 1 diabetes has nothing to do with fitness or diet," she explained. "His pancreas just stopped making insulin. Could have started weeks ago. The symptoms, extreme thirst, frequent urination, weight loss, fatigue, they build up slowly." Everything clicked. The constant water bottles at soccer practice, getting up 3 times a night to pee, how his uniform had been getting looser. Coach YELLS saw a kid struggling to run and assumed he was lazy. Meanwhile, Ethan's body was literally starving itself. The doctor continued, "If you'd waited another day, maybe even a few more hours, this could have been life-threatening. Kids have died from undiagnosed diabetes." Ethan spent 3 days in the hospital learning to give himself insulin shots. Watching my 12-year-old inject needles into his stomach like it was normal was heartbreaking, but he adapted faster than I did. "At least now I know why I felt so terrible," he said, trying to make me feel better. When we got home, I called Coach YELLS, told him exactly what happened and how his lazy player almost died because his body couldn't make insulin anymore. There was this long silence before he mumbled, "I had no idea." "That's the point," I said. "You had no idea, but you screamed at a sick kid anyway." The next week at practice, Coach YELLS pulled me aside. I talked to the other coaches. "We're gonna start asking parents about medical stuff before season starts, and I owe Ethan an apology." He did apologize to Ethan, who just nodded and said, "It's okay, coach. You didn't know." Because that's the kind of kid he is, more forgiving than the adults around him. But what really got me was later that night, Ethan said, "Mom, do you think other kids on the team have stuff going on that coach doesn't know about?" Smart kid. Turns out almost getting him killed taught Coach YELLS something about paying attention instead of just yelling. Now Ethan's the team's unofficial diabetes educator, showing teammates his glucose monitor and explaining why he has to check his blood sugar before games.